I'm not going to look at the granular effect of this egg timer because that's kind of what we want, sand, salt, that type of thing. So if I open up my granular effect, I've also turned on the animation. Now this is an important thing to understand is that we've got not just static collision objects, but this collision object is turning, therefore moving, but it's also continually turning. So the particle is getting collision, another collision on the next frame, another collision in a different place. So this is an extreme case of non-deforming collision objects actually doing a continuous collision. So you notice how when we play this back again, some of the elements are flying out because at one frame, when it starts to turn, let's just pause it for a second, there we go. So on one frame, the object is here, and then the next frame it's moved. So there's a couple of things we can look at here. Substeps. So this is the number of calculations that are happening in order to work out the position of the particle and whether or not it's actually needing to collide and how it should collide. So that should reduce the issue of them flying around. The more substeps, or the more iterations, the slower it will become because of the number of calculations that we'll be doing, but the more accurate it will become. We're dealing with quite large particles here, but we want to reduce that. So going into the original emission here, the resolution, I can try at 0.5, so half that original resolution. So you can see that the number of particles is dramatically bigger here. So let's see what happens when this starts to turn. Okay, well it's a lot more smaller particles, and therefore the calculations are considerable. One thing I want to do is, you see the surface friction? That's good. That'll help stop the jittering when it hits the bottom of the egg timer here. One thing I'm going to do is just add a little offset so that it's like a piece of glass here. I don't want it to be right on the boundary of the collision object. Let's just move in slightly. There we go. So we've still got a few more flying off there. So back into our substeps. Again, I could perhaps go up to 4. It's going to slow it down slightly, but it's going to make it a little bit more accurate. So there's going to be a number of occasions where if you have multiple collision objects, deforming collision objects, which Lagoa is really dealing with static or animated static transform collision objects. Here, okay, so we can see that increasing the number of substeps has helped stop them flying out. Again, if we were to increase the number of particles by reducing the resolution, and this is 0.5 units, there's another trick we can do. We could even go back into the playback options and do things like double the frame rate and double the step size. And I could actually go back and reduce the number of substeps here. So what this will be doing, this simulation has its own calculations, but playing around with the frame rate, I can also play around with how the whole of Softimage environment is interacting with all of the simulation environments. So I can play around with substeps, I can play around with the frame rate to be able to get the accurate collisions here, or I can do a combination of the two.